I wouldn't say I grew up with dogs. I had one dog when I was a kid, but the dog I had I was scared of. He was a pit bull. He was a little crazy. Nobody had any control over him, so he was a little different. And then as soon as I started getting comfortable with him, the day after we were dancing around playing, he passed away. So yeah, it's the only dog I had as a child. But yeah, no, I didn't really have any dogs growing up. I was actually kind of scared of dogs. So my mom's friend, she had two, I want to say pit bull mixes. And one day I was jumping on the trampoline at their house. The dogs got out and they jumped on the trampoline. I thought I was safe on the trampoline. Jumped on the trampoline, so I jumped off. And they jumped me, man. They basically gave me the business until the family came out and got them off of me. They didn't really bite me. It was just more so trampling on me and like muzzle punching me, getting in and getting out, getting in and getting out. I couldn't get off the ground. I was kind of stuck. So those are the main things that kind of got me to where I was just, I kind of had trust issues with dogs, but more so people, the owners of the dogs. So I met my wife, Haley. She loves dogs. After we started dating, there was a neighbor of mine that had a Boston Terrier, which is her favorite breed. And she talked to him about it. She was like, hey, you have a Boston Terrier, I really like your dog. I have a Boston Terrier at home, two of them actually. And basically just admiring the dog. And they're basically like, we can't really keep taking care of the dog. We work so much, we don't really have time for the dog. He's not eating, things like that. You can have him if you want him for free. Mind you, I didn't like dogs. So she kept this dog. She let me know, I'm taking this dog, I think she's gonna be cool. And I'm like, the dog ain't coming in my house. But when the dog came in my house, I fell in love with the dog. His name is Milo. His eyes went two different ways. So he was really ugly, but he was so ugly that he was cute. So basically we had the dog for, I wanna say like a week, like a good week. And then she was like, I know you don't really care for dogs. We're not really gonna take care of the dog because we're both athletes, we're both busy, you work, so on. So we ended up giving the dog away. And I'm like, you know what? I cried like a baby. And I only had the dog for a week. So I was like, man, my roommate, he has a dog. I always said if I get a dog, I want to get a Rottweiler. And basically having to give Milo away, I even told Haley, the next dog that we get when we get a dog, and we're gonna get a dog soon because my heart is broken, it's gonna be a Rottweiler. Growing up, I won't say I was in the best parts. Really, I never really even seen Rottweilers like that. I just thought they were intriguing dogs. Their color, the way they have eyebrows, their markings, they kind of look like little bears. And I really enjoyed that about Rottweilers. So I want to say maybe a month, 2 months went by, and I was like, look, we're getting a Rottweiler, so go ahead and do the research. I don't know nothing about dogs, so you gotta do all the research. You gotta find the dog, and then we can go half on the dog. It'll be like a little baby. And she found the dog, and I think she had a game actually. So I went and picked him out myself. Went to this breeder's house, didn't know nothing about dogs. All the female dogs came up to me. They were all really attached to me. All the male dogs ran away, except for one. And we wanted a male dog. So I was like, okay, well, he's the only one that's willing to come out, so we'll take him. And that's how we got Zeke. Bonding with him was pretty easy just because I want to say in the beginning I was forcing it, but at the same time it was just so natural. He trusts me almost with anything. And I think that's really hard to find in a dog. So early on, he was doing great. We taught him how to speak super early before he was 5 months old. This is before I know anything. So this is the coolest thing to me. He knew how to speak, shake, sit, stay, down, stay, and he knew his name. And at the time, my roommate, his dog didn't know his name. So for me, that was like a super big deal. So I'm like, I'm gonna teach my dog his name. He's gonna know it early. And I think he knew his name around 4 months old. So around that time of 2 months having him, he would respond to Zeke. So I really appreciate all of the moments that we've had. So I'm having flashbacks of all the little moments that we've had, and I can't think of one that I would prefer over the other because they've all been up there. So. So I've been training for, I want to say a little over 2 years. So I started training dogs whenever I moved to Oklahoma City. I knew I wanted to train dogs before I moved to Oklahoma City. I was in the process of moving from Tahlequah to Edmond. And between that process, I stayed at home in Tulsa for, I want to say 2 months. I was working for about 2 months. And before I made that transition, Zeke was about 4 or 5, I think it was 5 months when we were making that transition. I knew I wanted to train dogs then. I knew I wanted to give it a go. I didn't know how serious I wanted to be with it, if I wanted to be full-time or anything like that, but I did know that I wanted to put on a bite suit. I wanted to take bites from dogs. I wanted to be able to teach dogs and better learn how to communicate with them. More so I can communicate with Zeke more than anything. Basically, educational-wise, I never got any kind of education as far as like a technical school. Pretty much taught myself through Zeke, friends' dogs. I started charging at a super low rate for board and trains and just getting in front of people's dogs, and basically learned through experience. So that was my education before anything, and then, you know, kind of established myself and built something based on that. Well, I'm real big in making the dog think for themselves, because at the end of the day, it's all psychology. And as a human, the best way to learn in life, the biggest lessons you learn are from experience. And honestly, they're from failure. If you're constantly succeeding over and over and over again, what do you learn? You know what I'm saying? But before you get to that, if you're trying to succeed and you fail, and then when something works, you're like, okay, I know what not to do, and I know what to do. So now that together is gonna help me create something even more bigger than what I've already done. So in dogs, it's the same thing. So if you fail, and they fail, and they're trying to figure it out, and you give them a chance to figure it out, when they finally get it, the way that you reward, the way that you react, things like that, it goes off and it sets off a light bulb in their head. And they're like, holy moly, I want that again. I think the biggest thing for me is that I'm able to communicate with people. Because you can train a dog all day. The dog is going to get trained regardless. But if you can't teach the person to train their own dog, the dog doesn't live with you. So you being able to control that dog means nothing without that person's, control. So I think that's the biggest thing that I think may help me separate from the pack later on, is my communication skills, being able to communicate, come up with analogies that they can understand that isn't necessarily dogs, but can relate to dogs in a sense of exactly what we're doing. Dog training to me is, I like to see myself as sort of a therapist. So fun fact about me, I wanted to be a physical therapist or some kind of doctor or something like that. So my whole plan was I wanted to help people in one way or another. I wanted to make a difference. So dog training to me is the leg that I never thought that I had that allows me to do that. For some people, their dogs are everything. So to me, that's everything. Like I'm able to give people what they've always wanted, but they never had, in a sense. And dog training to me is my way of being able to make a difference in the world